Hey guys, I wanted to make a quick video tutorial on spin to win physical warlord. And the reason why I'm doing it is because a lot of people are interested in spin to win, and I see a lot of discussions about how to do it, how to better make it happen, and I wanted to help you guys with that. So this is my Warlord Warborn set spin to win guy. Let's talk about some of the gear choices first. Before I go into this, I wanted to tell you why I needed it. I wanted a very simple character to play. Previously I played a couple of pet builds and, well, let's just say that I thought that summoners would be easier. In Grim Dawn they are not. You have 50 curses and debuffs and buffs to your pets to press. Generally speaking, like, the set items give you some powerful ability that has like a 30-second cooldown. You have to remember to press it for bosses and things. If summoner is your go-to guy, try it, but be warned, it's a lot more intense than it is in other games where you simply wait to pick up the loot. Now, coming back to more manlier practices, what you need to make this build is the Warborn set, because principally it gives you a ton of physical damage, but more importantly, it gives the last bonus on force set, which is 16% weapon damage to Eye of Reckoning. You see, Eye of Reckoning is not an attack replacer, meaning all of the flat bonuses on your gear will not apply unless somehow this skill benefits from any percentage weapon damage. When that happens, all of the flat physical damage that you see here, like 1439, my roll on my gavel, is going to be added to the attack. The set was remade with Forgotten Gods expansion to help Eye of Reckoning. The items are pretty set in stone. It's nothing really special or interesting. That's why I named him the Village Idiot. I just wanted him to be easy, fast, take on all regular content, and by all regular content I mean any boss in the game and any nemesis in the game. I really hope that some of them are going to spawn for you today so I can find them easy and kill them. I'm experimenting right now with Doom. Previously I had another relic that gave +1 to all skills in Soldier. Doom is okay. I'm not really certain. It's like the damage that it lists would be much higher because it's 60% of main hand. It would be immense if I have a two-hand weapon. I'm going to experiment with the two-hand Warlord Eye of Reckoning later on. So, Warborn set. Easy. Mace, Baronath Reforged. The reason we use it is that any elemental damage bonuses are going to be translated 100% into physical damage, and it actually gives us a ton of crit damage, which is going to be important. If you look right here, without any buffs, I'm sitting at 2,900 defensive ability, which is quite high, but only 2,400 offensive ability. That's going to change once I activate everything, so let's do that right now. Another very good thing is I'm using the Blood Knight set, and as you notice, the colors change because it has a red hue now for Divine Mandate. Let's summon my debuff boys. Let's keep looking at the gear. I'm using Ring of the Black Matriarch. You'd look at this and you think, well, come on, it seems poison-centric. Yeah, that's true, it does. A couple of advantages. It gives us Cunning. Baronath is pretty hungry when it comes to Cunning. It needs 511. I have exactly 511, thank God. If this had any worse rolls, I would have had to invest another point from Physique into Cunning, and I didn't want to do that. It has some decent resists. More importantly, Venom of the Black Matriarch, which is 15% on attack, thank God. I hate on death procs. This one is just on regular attack, not even a crit. It's going to give me minus 10% physical resistance, which is going to stack with my Summy Boys here, and with everything else that I have going for me. Charcers of Barbaros, they're pretty good. I'm not using Oleron's Rage. I was running a variant that had 3,560 offensive ability, which was ridiculous, but this version with like almost like about 800 less offensive ability is going to be better. and you're going to see why. Divine Mandate gives it a ton of crit. I'm using Empowered Essence of Baranath because it gives flat elemental damage. Because of the set giving me percent weapon damage, this is going to be added to the attack. And because of Baranath Reforged, this 15 is basically physical damage now. I wanted this to be very simple and very direct, which is why I build it like this. Sandriver Bracers are new. They were added in the game in Forgotten Gods. If you don't have this with a decent attack speed roll, you can simply use Chains of All Around. Unchained Might, sorry. Chains of Unchained Might, which is going to do the same thing. Flat Fizz that's going to be added to the attacks and pretty all-around defensive. Blood of the Sands is cool because the proc, you're going to see, it looks like vitality pools from ghouls in this game, and they're going to spawn wherever. And I'm using Stoneplaying Greaves of Kings. After spending about 80 million iron bits, I was thinking to myself, well, let's use one of the more decent results in all of this. I just wanted slightly more defensive ability. I didn't get any decent armor, but I got 4 Fizz resistance and reduced stun duration. As it is, we're sitting right now at 63. My Aether and my Chaos are not really capped. I'll have to figure it out. I have to make a couple of more Empowered Essence of Baranath for that to happen, and I'm kind of running low on mats. For belt, we're using Before Chains of Oleron. It's probably the best thing possible because it gives flat, added to attack, 8 crit damage, a lot of Fizz, Pierce, Bleed, some resistances, some retaliation, which is kind of interesting, but more importantly, +1 to Soldier and +1 to Oathkeeper. Yeah, that's about it. I think it's time for us to put this to action, and I will show you on this very special occasion how to farm on Ugden Blooms. Now, the main strength for Eye of Reckoning, for me, is basically the fact that you can play a very relaxed playstyle. You just have to press one button. Technically speaking, you don't even need to do anything else. You just spin, proc Sappin. One of the more problematic areas are my devotions, which I think are very well set up if you want to attempt, for example, the Shattered Realm. These are my talents. I managed to max out Presence of Virtue, which gives me a lot of internal trauma, bleeding, a ton of offensive ability, and some retaliation. I didn't dump more points into Haven because I think that 16.5k HP is more than enough for what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to take it down any Celestials with these guys. Let's be honest here. I try to put more points into Celestial Presence because of the debuff. Remember, Ring of the Black Matriarch stacks with this, so it's -10, -36. Max Eye of Reckoning, because it has % weapon damage. Maxed Soulfire, because anything that you put on Eye of Reckoning, Shifting Sands, can also proc from Soulfires, which are the circles that you're going to see that are left behind. I have maxed out Divine Mandate, which gives me an enormous 43% crit damage. This is what made it possible for me to stop going Oleron's Rage, which means 10 more points investment, which is kind of investment hungry. And I was still doing more damage than with Oleron's because of how much Divine Mandate I have. The only problem that I have is I'm using Gaulish Hunger, which is necessary for a physical-based character that has % weapon damage, making Leech very strong, and it only procs at 45% health, and there's not a lot of things in this game that can get me to 45% health, which is kind of sad. On these guys, I have Assassin's Mark. They will attack anything, including if there's only one boss in the room. They are immortal, so once you summon them, these guys are going to debuff that enemy and be done with it. I'm using 1 point in Judgment because I like sucking things in. My numbers here you can see on my Grim Internals. This is dealt DPS that's interesting, and this is obviously the number that you're going to have to look for. This is going to be the single target number. And I also put 1 point in Crushing Verdict because it reduces their target's defensive ability, meaning I do more crits. I'm almost maxing out Fighting Spirit. It's pretty good. I just wanted more offensive ability because I felt that this build is low. I could dump more points into Military Conditioning if I feel I needed more health. I managed to max out Field Command for a massive 128 offensive, 128 defensive, and massive armor increase. No one talks about armor, but armor is really, really important in this game. Celestial Power, I have Inspiration. Again, when I get hit, I don't need to wait for something to die for it to activate, giving me almost equal amounts of offensive and defensive abilities as the skill itself, as field command. This is mostly done for attack speed purposes, although when I proc, I probably have around 240 attack speed. The game can only go up to 200%, but I felt like it would make the regular gameplay a bit more comfortable if I had more attack speed. I could probably dump more points once I'm done with Shattered Realm and get the extra points here to maximize my stun resistance. Right now, as it is, I'm sitting at 60 something plus. I have decorated Soldier mostly for resistances and some resist to slow. Warcry is another thing where you can put some extra points because, as you see, it has a meter radius. By meter radius, it means if you increase it by 1 meter, it's going to go by 1 meter in radius, which means if you put like 3 more points, it's going to cover like most of your screen. If you max it out, it's probably the entire screen. And of course, break morale because it reduces physical resistance, which is enormously beneficial to us. In endgame in Grim Dawn, you need % resist shred and flat resist shred, which is true for any damage type, to be honest, because that's the only way you can scale your abilities. 1 point into Blitz because I like moving fast. I put 1 point into Blindside, but I'm starting to regret because it knocks everything back. With 1 point, I still have +5 targets maximum, and then I have to blow them out and call them back in with Judgment, as you're going to see. I'm hoping that Kuba spawned, so I can demonstrate other things as well. Alright, enough chat.
I can't do that yet.
Eye of Reckoning also has a couple of weaknesses that people don't seem to notice, which is because it attacks 5 times a second. Kuba, bitch. Because it attacks every 5 seconds, the problem with it is that it, well, by the way, I'm not gonna move. I'm just gonna like spin around him a bit so I don't see any. Because it attacks so many times a second, what happens is it does very little damage. So Beach, you need quite a lot of it. Oh, and you're giving me the mandate. That's so cool. And that's how you do Kuba without moving at all. Second pair. Maybe I'm gonna make a Blood Knight set. Let's continue farming Gugden Blooms. I just made a disastrous character. Do not try Bone Lance from the Decree of 5 new dagger. Do not try it. It's absolute garbage. I spent 80 blooms trying to make that thing work, and it disappointed me for life. I have to refarm everything before I move on with another character. So, the core principle of this build is make it simple, make it nice, make it fast, and have fun with it. Everyone's flavor of the month is Eye of Reckoning because of how fun it is, not so much because of how potent it is. Other people have managed to do amazing things with it, like a guy that I was talking to and gave me some very helpful advice. Told me that he can do pretty reliably like Shattered Realm level 75s. I didn't manage to do that at all. Shattered Realm is a very weird piece of content. It's good because it's difficult, and we needed more difficulty. Even in Crucible, things were getting really, really, really easy, and people wanted to test their hard-earned items on different things.
That skill's not ready.
And they weren't able to. By the way, keep the eyes on the red marker. Oh, you can also look at the AoE damage that I'm doing. When I have a lot of humans that, for some reason, take a lot more damage from me than anything else, it becomes pretty spectacular. This white number of Del DPS jumps to over 2 million. Yeah, it's a very, very relaxed playstyle. Technically speaking, whenever I have enemies like this, just regular guys, I just touch them one time and they die. I leave pools of physical bleed debuffs from my gloves everywhere, so even if I leave, there's a chance that things are going to die behind me. It's not important at max level when you have max out devotions, but it is very important when you're leveling up to be able to kill things very fast. I just realized I haven't talked about other pieces of gear. Mythical Direwolf Crest, probably one of the best things you can do if you want to dual wield, otherwise you will not be able to. You don't have any talent that allows you to do it. The only thing that allows you to do it is this metal, and it has a massive, massive offensive ability, as well as some bleed damage that kind of synergizes pretty well. it really, really synergizes pretty well. The proc is also pretty decent. I wouldn't say it's enormously beneficial, but it's really good. And for devotions, first thing I did was I tried to take Targo the Builder, I took Anvil, and I had all of these physical things. And then a guy told me, yeah, but you only have 3% life resist. I was like, yeah, God, you're right. And because it hits so low, like small increments of damage, small damage hits are not going to save you. So I took Ghoul, which is extremely, extremely cool if something gets you to 45% health. Let's say Gravathul gets really, really angry with you and he hits your Daylights out. So I took Ghoul for this. I had to invest into Mantis and into Jackal, and then I went straight into Revenant for more Life Leech. With Seal of Blades on my main hand, because it's important if you put it in your main hand or offhand, mind you. So I put it in my main hand. Right now I'm sitting at a very comfortable 10%. I actually activated them in the wrong order, but it's 15%. I should say 15% main hand and 10% offhand. Because I activated it the wrong way, I was like, why are these numbers reversed? But that's fine. Other devotions that are incredibly beneficial. Assassin's Mark, like as I said, is tied to Guardian of Empyreans because they always attack and they never die. So whatever you're attacking in the room is going to go there. You can even bind your pet command to be able to send them to the boss if there's a boss room that has ads. I have Inspiration to field command, so it's always on. This is pretty beneficial. I have Shifting Sands for Eye of Reckoning, which are the sands that I leave behind, like on the ground. Again, very good. They reduce target's offensive ability as well, and while they're sitting in it, it's basically always on. Solemn Watcher is an all-around very good defensive devotion because you do need a lot of DA. I was afraid of getting crit, so my DA is actually pretty substantial. I have 3,000 without any procs, with just buffs. We take Scholar's Light because it gives elemental damage, which is then, because of my Baronat, is transformed to Pure Fizz. So this is a huge amount of Flat Fizz added. I have Ulzad's Decree to Warcry, mostly because I was leveling it up. And it also gives me a ton of armor and some Fizz Retaliation, which is not significant, but still a welcome bonus. Plus, sometimes it's fun to yell at people and see that you just did 60k on everything in the room. I have one floater point. I put it into Dire Bear, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and cap my stun resistance by taking the point into Empty Throne, because as it stands, I'm still at 63% stun resist. My resists are kind of bad. As I mentioned before, I have to work a bit more on components to get them to a better level. Well, that's about it. This is the route that I took. You start from Barrowhole, you have a decent chance of Kuba spawning if you want to take him out really fast. And then you go to kill Silvaria because she's a very good source of Ugden game. Silvaria is pretty tanky. I'm not worried about dying or anything. I'm just going to be looking at the numbers. And once I'm done with this, because I wanted to show this route as well, a lot of people ask, hey, where do I find this, where do I find that? I'm going to take you guys straight to the Korvac, the Cuck God. And we're going to pull his lights out, and it's going to be glorious. I've gotten to the point with this build where I face tank everything that I wanted to kill with this build. Obviously, you have to run away for very dangerous things. Also, please note that I'm using Grimtools, and I am picking up things. When I was playing the Summoner, I didn't need to. I would just let my guys go and I would pick up things manually, but
that skill's not ready.
I want to be comfortable, you know what I mean? So, since I'm spinning and I can do damage and move at the same time, it just made a lot more sense to try to get this done like this. So I just activated it, and yeah, you can blame me for that. I understand, but for this kind of character, because I'm doing damage while moving, it wouldn't make sense for me to stop and pick up everything. I hope you guys are going to be able to go over it. The add-ons that I'm using is, I'm using Item Assistant, a really good item. Add-on, sorry. I had to delete 8 mules. I had 8 mules of gear, and it was becoming increasingly erratic. The reason being I had to put two-hander on one, rifles on the other, and stuff like that. This makes it a lot easier. Alright, Silveria, just die, please. Man, she's really tanky. I don't even know. She really is. It's a bit of a problem. I'm sitting in acid, by the way. That's why my HP is suddenly going down. Acid is still pretty dangerous if you sit in it. There's not a lot of variations of damage in this game that are going to be dangerous if you sit in them. Acid is, however, one of them. Let's kill Korvac. Let's just kill Korvac, and then we're going to go run for Grava. Grava Tool is the single most badass enemy in the game. He is undoubtedly one of the worst nemesis you can find. He's probably the hardest. In tight corridors, Grava Tool is more dangerous than most Celestials. It's difficult. Korvac, would you mind? Shut up, man! Jeez, I'm trying to talk on my guy. I'm just trying to talk here to these people. This is what you're doing. Gargoyles are also kind of tanky. I don't know why, but
That
it makes
skill's not
sense.
ready.
Every single faction.
Did they see their charade last?
You threatened me like 50 times already, and I killed you each time, buddy. Relax. Anyway, as I was saying, each faction has very tanky mobs. The ethereal constructs are big and tanky. These guys are big and tanky. Everything is big and tanky. Where am I with Nemesis status?
Come, little human. I will make this quick.
Not even. I'm close to actually getting the new Nemesis. I'm really curious of how he's going to fare. He has very desirable neck piece that gives 1 rolls like 4 levels, so 12 levels, which means if he rolls like of Ruin or something, goodbye Eye of Reckoning now. That MI is one of the best things I've ever seen in this game. The idea that you can have +1 while still having a lot of other bonuses to it is huge. If you notice, Eye of Baranath Essence of Baranath, sorry, only gives me flat and a percent and some shitty resists, but if you can get life, better resists, and potentially more damage, is going to be great. What I do here, by the way, is I actually spin before he starts the fight, because I want to stack up my Celestials, and I also would like to stack the blood pool for my gloves underneath him. Actually, it's even more important for you to watch your energy pools instead of watching your HP pool because of how tanky you are. I managed to do it. I didn't get the promise. Now I'll show you what happens when you want to just this time the final boss. The final thing.
Can't do that yet.
Clocks are up, 3,200. Not even all of them. Oh yeah. Now we have to go around because unfortunately we're losing.
My energy is low.
That's it. I got really unlucky with the harp proc and Tree of Life procs. That would have otherwise filled my energy again, but you know, 648k, still pretty good. I've had better when everything syncs up nicely. Give me your helmet. Give me your helmet. I want your helmet. Give me the helmet. Buddy, you're just delaying the inevitable. You will give me your helmet at one point. It looks really cool. It has horns. Now, I got this guy. Fabius is way too easy. We're not going to go for Fabius. We're actually going to go straight looking for Alexander. Alexander is difficult because people sometimes don't understand the fight. You have to remember that in this game, and I'm quoting House of Bark, by the way, a really good streamer. You have to check him out. In this game, everything that you can do to mobs, they can do to you. If you reduce their defensive ability, some of them are going to do the same thing to you. So this is one of the reasons why it's incredibly important for you to overcap on certain things. Alexander has one of the nastiest skills in the game. His big-ass meteor can literally destroy people in one shot, because once it lands, it still stuns you. We also have Hysteria here. Usually I'm really unlucky with her, because you see she already has her stuff buffed. She already has her shield, which means she's a lot tankier. But once she gets rid of it, it's a lot better. Sorry, girl, I know you stunned me, but I have a lot of stun resist, so kind of ignore you. Goes to Invoke Extra. What a champ. And this is the entirety of your gameplay. At the beginning, when you make your warlord, you're gonna have some energy issues. Sorry. But you're gonna get over them with the components that I selected on the Grimtools. You're gonna be using a diamond in your head to alleviate some of those problems. Oh man, come on. Alex? No? Please? No. I'm gonna have to go in deeper to look for him. I think I can show you the Flesh Shaper as well. Krieg hasn't given me his helmet yet, so this is a good opportunity for me to go in. As usual, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask me. I'm not a very good theory crafter of Grimtools. I have 1.2k hours, but that doesn't say anything because I didn't need anything. At first, when people asked me about weapon pool skills, I was like, what are they even talking about? A couple of, like maybe a year or two ago. This is how I found out that things that are not auto attack replacers do not benefit from flat sources of damage unless there's a weapon percentage involved, in which they are mechanically treated similarly to auto attack replacers, and they can start getting the bonuses. And since Eye of Reckoning hits for very small amounts of damage but very fast, it is extremely important for you to use a set or an item that would give you weapon percent damage. Otherwise, the build is going to be garbage. This is also one of the reasons why the Cyclone set, which is for the lightning variation list, weirdly enough actually has a caster offhand. It does so because that's not necessarily a downside to this skill. Man, Alexander is hard to define. This guy's really hard to define. Well, at least we can do the mind thief.
That skill's not ready.
Not even gonna press Ascension. That's what I wanted to see. So much damage. There are enemies that are dangerous just because they are slightly more tanky than other enemies, but I haven't pressed the pot once. It's becoming a problem, to be a problem because I pick up every pot, just like every other guy, and it's getting to the point where I have to go and vendor all of my extra pots. I'd really like the opportunity to show you guys an Alexander kill as well. That would be really cool. Especially in tight spaces, Alexander is really, really fun. If he teleports to you and immediately does his meteor, a lot of people won't have the reaction time to get away from it. Yeah. My AoE damage becomes really impressive once I have a lot of enemies. Like, the highest AoE damage I've seen was basically 3.2 million. Not even Crucible. Alright. We've danced around a lot, Flash Reaver Free. Daddy wants his fucking helmet, please. Press on. I was giving you an example of tanking mobs. That they're a lot tankier in the game than the regular trash mobs that you see me evaporating here. The two flesh guys here are some of those mobs. They have a naturally high armor. And because of that, you're gonna see me killing them, but it's gonna be slow. There's also an interesting axe that was added in Forgotten Gods that gives Eye of Reckoning a ton of bleed damage, but also it gives it basically 8% weapon damage extra. And I'm debating whether a bleed variation would be better. I'm not sure if it's going to be fast, because bleed in this game only works if you stack it. Other interesting variants would be Aether, because Aether's cool as hell. And wouldn't even be wasted if you probably try a preset with it, I'm pretty sure. Where's the other guy?
can't
guys,
do
I'm
that
really
yet.
sorry, no one sound. With things like the Cyclone set, if you're thinking about it, I have to remind you gently that you have to use Wind Devils as well. The set is kind of built around it. You can use Wind Devils at a lower level, but you have to use them to debuff the enemy. And I didn't want to stop spinning, which is why I actually made it Pure Fizz to begin with. And with Baranath, it just becomes really, really, really easy. I'm really hoping this guy's gonna get me lower than 45% HP, because otherwise my full damage isn't going to come up, and it's really annoying. This is basically Battle Cry, and you notice that I have 2 because it can pop multiple times. I'm doing the same thing that I did with Korvac. I'm stacking up my stuff so when it comes out, he's basically already taking max damage. 700 something top damage, and now stacking it again.
That skill's not ready.
Only 3.1. Come on, give me more. He's not giving me more damage now.
I can't do that yet.
This is the problem when you make a build centered around trying at one point some Shattered Realm stuff, and you never get taken to the point to activate all of your defenses. The build also has one last thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, which is it has incredibly decent armor rating for a double-wielding non-shield character. I'm sitting at quite a lot of armor, in my opinion. This goes up to like 3.2. Okay, and as you can see, without any procs whatsoever, not even the hundreds that I get from Harp and the others, I'm still sitting at 3045. Even with 2.7, I still have about close to 20% chance to crit. And because my crit damage is so unnaturally high, it's a lot higher than 69 because other procs are going to come into effect. Baranath is going to come into effect. The damage is actually pretty good. So don't be pressured into going into Olaron's Rage thinking, well, I need all of that fizz damage and that trauma damage and stuff. You get enough movement speed from the build and items as is. Divine Mandate, in my personal experience, made me a hell of a lot tankier, with a lot better leech, and with even greater damage. Well, I think that, unfortunately, that's going to be the end of it. I think you guys have listened enough. Me rambling on about physical Eye of Reckoning. So, one more time, the Village Idiot is sending you his regards. I hope you have fun with this build while you spin and potentially win. Thank you for watching, guys. Catch you later.